Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF Is Saints Row 4? Well, it's the fourth game in the series of Saints Row titles, as you might imagine, developed by Volition, and used to be published by THQ until that went under, and it was bought by Deep Silver, who put an awful lot into this, and then, kind of out of nowhere, sudden marketing blitz in Saints Row 4, and now this is coming out on August the 20th. And that was a little strange, honestly, because Saints Row 3 hasn't been out for that long, relatively speaking. And yet this kind of pops up. And this game has a little bit of a strange history associated with it, because originally, this game was supposed to be a DLC. And they decided, you know what, the ideas behind this game, we think a full game is a better idea. We think a full $50 sequel is a better idea. So, what I'm going to attempt to answer for you today in my first impressions video is whether or not this game is indeed worthy of that $50 price tag, or whether it's just a trumped up DLC. I guess we'll find out, won't we? So, let's go at the options menu and check it out. So, controls fully rebindable, which is always nice for pretty much everything. That's good. I'm happy with that. Don't really know if there's any mouse acceleration issues. I haven't noticed any. I have noticed some problems with the camera every now and again, including the vehicles. I have to wonder which of these three settings actually makes sense. I'm not really sure. I would love to tell you, but it doesn't actually explain what they are. So, far as I know, there don't appear to be any problems there, far as I can tell at any rate. Gameplay options allow you to change difficulty, subtitles, and so on and so forth. This is useful because, well, handling aeroplanes in this game is actually kind of difficult. Even on normal, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. But there you go. Film grain, turn that off immediately because it's usually horrible. Interestingly enough, you can also actually have your radio on outside of the vehicle, and there's an in-game explanation for that. Display options are fairly standard. They're very, very similar to what we saw in Saints Row 3. So, let me tell you this. I did a bit of experimentation here, because when I started playing the game after I got into the main city area out of the kind of first hour or so of linear stuff, I noticed some fairly obscene frame drops. Like, it was dropping from like 100 to 40 to 30 in places, just out of nowhere. Like, whoa, alright, there must be a setting. So I messed with them. I tried all four of their presets, including low, and I also tried it with SLI on and off, because I'm aware that for some titles, SLI can cause some problems. It's not necessarily 100% reliable. In all instances, I found that those frame drops occurred regardless. So there would appear to be optimization issues. So I dug a little deeper, decided to talk to NVIDIA. It's like, hey guys, did you get your hands on Saints Row before launch? It's like, nope, AMD did. So it may be that these problems are isolated to NVIDIA users, and it may be that that will be sorted out in a driver update, but I can't tell you that. I don't know. We're not gonna know until this comes out to a wider audience. Right now, only the press has got it. Most of them are playing it on console, so you're probably not gonna find that out, but I'm giving you a warning right now. This game has some pretty severe frame drops at times for no apparent reason, and that may impede your enjoyment of it. If on a machine of this power, even on lower presets, it's still doing that, it may be more severe for you. This is fairly similar to the problems that we saw with Saints Row 3, that was also a game that, quite frankly, had a deserved reputation of not being that well optimized. At least not on PC anyway. Separate audio sliders, and thank God for this, yeah? Thank God, you sensible people, Volition. Why is it that most games don't have this? Being able to turn voice chat off. Yes! Thank God for that. Jeez. Alright, okay, so let's rock and roll and get into the game, shall we? There's a campaign, a co-op campaign. We'll be doing single player for this. This is about 7.5 hours in, so I am going to avoid pretty much every spoiler I can. I will not be doing any main story missions. We will be doing entirely side activities and running around the city doing crazy mayhem stuff. That's the kind of thing we're going to be doing, and I'm going to avoid spoiling any of the major story mission content. There will be minor spoilers in the sense that you get to see parts of the city, yeah? That's probably about as far as it's going to go. I will attempt not to interact with any characters. So, without further ado, let's get in. See what's going on here. Alright, so, welcome to Steelport. It looks a little different, does it not? Yes, indeed it does. As you can see, I am, in fact, the President of the United States. I have a British accent and a purple fedora. I imagine that would be what would happen if r/politics had its way. This is Steelport, only not as you know it. And indeed, the boss of the Saints, not as you know it either. He can do some rather interesting things. So Steelport is now a simulation, as you can see. It's been taken over by aliens. You were trapped in the simulation, you now have the ability to kind of access it at will. Like the Matrix. Very much like the Matrix. As a result of having access to the simulation, you have gained superpowers. Obviously. Why else? And you are attempting to free your friends, take control of the simulation, and try and kick the aliens off Earth from inside, yeah? Earth pretty much kind of loses the fight almost instantly, and you get stuck in the simulation and eventually are able to get into a situation where you can control it. This isn't really a surprise to anyone, because of course this was very much revealed in the trailer. So what is there to do? Well, there's quite a lot, as you can see, and for one thing, you can kind of fly, and run really fast, and run into things, and knock them out of the way. And it's kind of fun. And you can do that, which is also kind of great. Not only that, but wait, there's more. God damn it. Yeah, I don't like that guy, so we're just gonna have to try and deal with it. Telekinesis! That's a thing. It's surprisingly effective, as I think you can probably see. You do have superpowers at the end of the day, and, well, you are very much encouraged to use them as much as humanly possible. And they work fairly well. So, what's changed about Steelport? Not that much, surprisingly. Obviously, they've kind of alienified it, and they've done a lot of sci-fi stuff to it, but I imagine a lot of these assets are reused. I cannot imagine that they have completely redone Steelport. I played a decent amount of Saints Row 3, but it's kind of hard to remember. It's like, oh, was that city block here? I don't know. I mean, buildings are buildings. I very much imagine that they did do that. They obviously reused a lot of animations and weapon assets and all sorts of different things. The way that the cars drive is fairly similar to Saints Row 3. So, this brings up the subject, I suppose, of exactly whether or not this is a worthy sequel, instead of just being a piece of DLC that they're trying to charge you $50 for. You know, this is not Blood Dragon. Blood Dragon cost $15, was a understandably cut down experience, and, you know, people pretty much got their money's worth with that one. But this isn't, you know. This is taking the concept, whacking it up to 11, it's Saints Row with superpowers, and they're expecting you to pay full price for it. So, is it worthwhile? Well, let's have a look at some of the basic functionality, and then we can talk about some of the more complex stuff. So, as you probably saw on the minimap, there's a bunch of different icons, various different activities. And, of course, you can do what you were able to do in all Saints Row games, which is just, like, go on a killing spree, if you so desire. Only this time, you can do it with superpowers, which is far more effective. And you can also do kind of superpowered wrestling moves on people very, very easily. Alternatively, I can get out the tentacle bats. And I can swing that around and knock people all over the place. Since I'm, of course, superpowered, I have super strength. This is fairly effective. I can kick vehicles if I like. And that works surprisingly well. And, of course, you know, toss them around. Because why not? If I have telekinesis, why would I not use it? And that tends to piss off the aliens, as you might imagine. They're not too happy about that. But they're also not that... Well, you kind of looked like an alien for the most part. I think it was your fashion sense, so, you know, we might have to try that one again. Kicking aliens in the face is fairly simple to do. So the addition of all of these moves is... I mean, it's not completely different to Saints Row, but they did amp the moves right the way up. Like, if Saints Row was 11, this is 17. And 17 in a very extreme fashion, to say the least. There's a lot of very strange stuff going on. Now, of course, as a result of having superpowers, it does make it a little bit more difficult to die. Even if you do get in an awkward situation, getting out of it is not that tricky. And then, of course, you just need to look for something that will give you health. There's an upgrade very early on, which makes civilians give you health when you kill them. So, killing civilians is a pretty standard strategy. It works fairly well for the most part. And it seems you don't take damage while you're in the middle of these kind of wrestling moves. So, at least as far as I can tell it anyway. I've never died while in the middle of one, so... Well, it seems to work fairly well. And even then, you know, if it's a problem, you can kind of just get out of there. Usually you'd have to find a car and try and escape, and maybe you get chased. But nothing is going to be able to keep up with you when you can do this. So there you go. Antagonizing people really doesn't matter all that much. Your sprint meter does wear down after a while, but you can very easily kind of get going again and easily leave them in the dust and then sort of split them off and shoot them down as you go. So there you go, and then of course you can just try and gather health as you're going past, which is not too difficult to do, quite frankly. Just gun down a bunch of civilians, and hey, I'll have health back again. Very nice. Now, the combat has been pumped up with some rather interesting weapons, like this one. Yes, indeed, it's the Dubstep Gun. Because we can. I mean, what better reason would you need? Which should give me a bunch of health pickups. There we go, nice and easy. Probably kind of shouldn't set myself on fire. That might not be a good idea. There are various alien weapons in the game. Some of them are very, very bizarre, like the Dubstep Gun. It's actually surprisingly effective, and you can even change the songs that it plays. Every time it pulses, it does damage in an area, and also makes civilians and certain alien enemies sort of dance around the place. My notoriety has gone up very, very high here, so this is probably going to result in me getting obliterated, but we'll see. It's kind of difficult to piss them off to this degree unless you're deliberately trying. Even the missions where you're fighting them, they generally don't get this crazy. But hey, there you go. So the basic functions of the game are very, very similar to the previous Saints Row games. There are activities, there are main missions, there are side missions. There's a couple of weird things, like the ability to catch these kind of golden Sid things. If you disable them, this will actually take control of an area, and it will spawn a bunch of Saints to help you out in a similar way to taking territory in the previous Saints games. So, and it also resets your notoriety, which makes things kind of easy. We look on the map, we'll notice a lot of different activities. Kind of a huge amount, even in this just basic area here. Professor Genki's MOM, Tank Mayhem. That kind of sounds like a plan. It's not too far away, so we can go and do that. And we'll do a couple of basic activities while we talk about how well the game actually works. I don't know what the... Well, this is interesting. Actually, I think this is one of those... Yeah, I think this is a rift puzzle. So, among the various kind of new activities, there are some really strange ones. And then there are a bunch of activities that were in the first game, but they changed them around a little bit. By the first game, I mean Saints Row 3, because this is a direct precursor to that. The idea of jacking cars is in this game jacking and delivering viruses or whatever, and then there's defense missions and stuff that was in Saints Row 3, but they kind of put this weird techno feel to it. In this case, it looks like I'm going to be riding a motorcycle and doing a little race section. The previous rift that I did was a platforming thing, which was a little strange. Looks like I'm going to do some pretty good Tron stuff going on right here. Yeah, why not? Seems reasonable. Left mouse to activate burst. Burst lets you... Oh, wow, this is actually on rails. There we go. Burst lets you break obstacles and for valuable data or something along those lines. Alright, okay. Okay, so you kind of gotta charge the burst up and try and avoid the stuff on the way. Alright, that makes a reasonable degree of sense. This is actually surprisingly tricky. Burst is now ready, apparently, so we can blast our way through an obstacle next time. Very odd that they would put this here, but the game is kind of full of this really weird stuff that kind of has no business being there, but they decided, you know what, it's like, we feel like it should be. We feel like we wanted to put this in the game, so we did. I don't even know how this controls. It's really, really strange. It doesn't control like anything else in the game, which is very odd indeed, but I'm kind of getting the hang of it. There we go. Surprisingly fun time. Some of these sort of mini-games don't reoccur all that much as far as I can tell either. And then some of them reoccur an awful lot and are part of the main story in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect. In previous Saints Row games, a lot of these activities were just... They were just side activities. There were things to do, to earn yourself credit, to earn all sorts of different great things. In this game, a lot of the main story plot and a lot of the loyalty missions for your characters are attached to these activities. And while this one is a little bit unusual, a lot of them really aren't. A lot of them are... Oh, really? That was a thing? Okay, apparently that's a thing. Alright, good to know. Oh, come on, really? And that's a little bit unusual. Like, for the first, like, couple of hours of the game, it's like, disrupt the system, and it's like, do a bunch of activities that are really weird. Like, there's a version of the fraud mission where it just disables the physics engine, allows you to spin around and launch yourself off stuff like a glorified pinball, Angry Birds simulator. I don't know what the hell was going on with it, but it was a hell of a lot of fun, I'll tell you that for a fact. But those are the kind of things that usually serve as little side projects and little things to kind of distract you from the main story. Here they seem to be part of the main story outside of all of the very linear stuff, especially stuff that's at the first hour of the game. You probably saw the 50s scene. Maybe you guys watched the video of that. That's part of the first hour or so of the game. That's very, very linear. And then after that, well, it's a lot of these kind of basic activities that seem to have been sort of cobbled together in a way to try and produce some kind of cohesive story and... God damn it, I hate these jumping puzzles. And cohesive sort of gameplay system. It's like, well, we're trying to figure out a good reason for you to be doing all this crazy crap that otherwise would just be said, yeah, it's just a weird side mission, and that's kind of cool, right? In this case, it's like, no, these side missions are actually kind of required, and all of this crazy stuff you're doing is designed to disrupt the simulation. And I guess that's kind of their justification for it. But it feels a bit off, yeah? It's not what I would have expected from a Saints Row game, and I have a feeling that that might annoy some people. I think it's really just down to the fact that people have expected for a while a Saints Row game to be a gangster game. Yes, it's a little strange, don't get me wrong. It's got a lot of weird stuff that reminds you of old GTA games when they just didn't give a damn about realism. But in this case, while Saints Row 3 was 11, this is 17, and it has essentially thrown away any possible justification for being a gangster game. I mean, you start off as President of the United States, and you know how that goes, but it's so silly that it might as well not be a gangster game. And that's where the problems start to arise. That's where this game doesn't really seem to know what it wants to be. And where it appears to be more of a set of cobbled together ideas that started off as kind of a DLC that was probably going to outstay its welcome in 4 hours, and then became a fully fledged game with like 20 to 30 to maybe even 40 plus hours of gameplay. How on earth I got a silver for this, I don't know. I failed so horribly in the entire lot, but hey. I'll take what I can get at this stage. Oh, I'm almost gold, but whatever, silver is fine. Now, once I get back into the world, let me show you exactly what I mean by the fact that the game's like not really a gangster game anymore and has kind of lost its sense of identity in a way, gained a new one, but the question is that new identity actually better than the old one? Is it desirable to people? Alright, so welcome back to the world. This reality rift, of course, made everyone kind of strange, which is cool, and there's some very weird looking stuff, and you've probably noticed... That's kind of awesome, honestly. You've probably noticed that the buildings often pixelate and fade out and fade in, and artifacting occurs on characters, and that's deliberate. It's like, hey, look, we're digital, which kind of gets annoying after a while, but hey, there you go. So, let me explain to you why I think that the game's kind of a little bit weird. So, of course, in Saints Row, you had the ability to summon in your homies, and it kind of made sense, because you are rolling around as a gang. I could summon in Saints back up, and I can do exactly the same thing. I could call in Keith David as Keith David to help me out. My Saints will come along momentarily. There they are. Drive along in their Saints Row vehicle, and they're like, yeah, let's go, let's go. Okay, so I could do that. Or I could just do this. Oh, they can't keep up. Even if they're in a car, they can't keep up. And this is only with speed level 2. It goes higher than this. There is... The Saints don't have superpowers. You do. So this kind of puts you as a man apart from everybody else. The idea of rolling around with a crew makes no damn sense when the crew can't fucking keep up with you. I mean, come on, really? I can run up walls. I can basically kind of fly in a rubbish way. You guys can't do that. So all they can really do is sort of teleport to your location, as you can see. It makes very little sense for these guys to be there, and even if they are, they don't really serve a lot of purpose. You can upgrade them, to make them a little bit more useful. So I can go to upgrades, I can go to gang abilities, I can outfit them with more weapons, and give them more health and things like that. But at the end of the day, they're mostly a liability. They just kind of get in the way. Because you have superpowers, not a lot can really threaten you. I have the ability to set an entire area on fire if I so desire. I have the ability to throw tanks at people. Nothing you guys with your little SMGs can do is really going to help me all that much here. And this is only like 7 hours in the game where I don't have a lot of powers. Yeah, later on, I'm going to have weapons that can basically level city blocks. At least I could if this game was geomod supported, but you get the idea. It's going to do a ludicrous amount of damage, and these guys are just going to be kind of bystanders, really. So what else? You know, another part of Saints Row was very much kind of hijacking vehicles and riding around in them. That was an example of the kind of the camera going spazzy every time I do that. It's like, yeah, this is cool, and they actually give you a nitro upgrade really, really early on. This is awesome! Hang on a minute. Why the hell am I riding that? I can do this. Why do I even care? What reason is there for me to even drive a vehicle? I can run faster, and that lets me run at walls and avoid all the obstacles and pretty much all of the pickups that I need to get. That stuff that you saw earlier. There's one over there, I think. I can pretty much see it from that distance. Those data clusters, you can't access them in the car anyway. So a car is a liability. Right? Cars can explode, yeah, and kill you. This can't. I can run around. The fact that Saints are following me is doing nothing because they can't even keep up with me. And this is kind of what I'm trying to get at when I say that the systems don't really make sense. They don't fit together in a way that actually works. Yeah? All of the gang aspects of the game are, for the most part, entirely pointless outside of story-driven stuff. You could do everything yourself, and most of the time it's more convenient for you to do it that way anyway. Because, hey, you got superpowers, and the game accounts for that and says, right, well, you got superpowers, then we're going to give superpowers to our enemies, and we're going to make sure that the enemies have enough firepower to be a threat to you, which means your Saints are going to be freaking cannon fodder with little pea shooters. What's the point in even having them? And the game still has this really in-depth customization system for cars. I could still summon in cars. Let's go over here. I want to do a little hacking minigame. For some reason, a lot of these buildings have a hacking minigame, which is very reminiscent of the old Bioshock pipe dream thing. Alright, let's hack our way through this, I guess, and they kind of get progressively more difficult as you go through, so they're reasonably fun, I guess. And yep, there we go. Nice and easy. Hack complete. So that's accessed what I assume is rim jobs, and then we go in, and it's like, hey, let's customize vehicles. I customized this. This is my Bulldog, and there's all sorts of really cool stuff. Like, hey, this is my, one of my really awesome vehicles here. What is the point? I mean, this is inconvenient. I have to drive around people, even with boosters on, and for some reason with boosters on, the camera goes crazy every time it does that. Even with nitro on, it's like, this is inconvenient. I can't fly over water. I have to follow the road. Alternatively, I could not do that. So these are legacy systems that exist because Saints Row 3 had them. So does this game, because it originated as a DLC. So of course the game still has them. But the game doesn't need them. And the game is having this massive identity crisis of what it wants to be. Is it a superhero game or is it a gangster game? It's a gangster with superheroes, and with superpowers. Well, you don't need a gang if you've got superpowers, apparently, because nothing in this bloody world has it, It's very, very strange. It's really weird. And it's like, the game really does show its cracks an awful lot. Taking territory makes little sense, really. Why would you need guys to help you out? I can obliterate this entire area without too much of a problem, honestly. It's like, alright, okay, you want me to kill this area? No problem. I'm gonna jump in the air, I'm gonna get my firepower out, that's gonna kill half the guys in the area, I'm gonna get my shotgun. I don't need my shotgun, I'm just getting my tentacle bat. There we go. Oh, that instantly kills people. It's barely upgraded, and these troops don't stand a chance. I'll just run at them and do this. I can't be hurt while I'm doing it anyway. They'll probably give me a health pickup when I kill them, and yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, I think you probably get the idea. The only time when you really are threatened in this game is when you are stupid about it. When you're really stupid about how you actually engage the enemies. If you're even the slightest bit smart, you've got superpowers. You don't need a gang to take down anything. What are the Saints doing here? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm doing all the work. There we go. Now, thankfully, when it comes down to being a superhero game, the superpowers are really fun to use. The super speed is extremely enjoyable. The ability to jump, very, very cool. This is actually very much like Crackdown. In fact, a lot of elements in the game are very much like Crackdown. You might have noticed the collection of orbs and things like that. That's very Crackdown-esque. The idea that you have to collect the orbs to upgrade your abilities, very Crackdown-esque. The idea that all cars have boosters, once again, very Crackdown-esque. And that you could throw cars, and you could super jump, and they're running at walls. That's very similar to how those games work. And then gliding is very similar to the prototype game. So it's obvious they lifted a few ideas here and there in order to actually make the game work to their liking. Those moves that you do are really, really fun. I mean, they're not difficult, and you don't have a lot of choice in which move you do, but they're a lot of fun to do. So I can kind of dig that. There's some stuff that I don't really like. when it comes down to the actual superhero aspect of it. And I think maybe it's just because I haven't got enough powers yet, but the melee system is kind of lame, honestly. It's like, yeah, I have this tentacle bat, or I have my basic kind of punch and kick combos, which are not very enjoyable. Like, if you want a melee-based superpower game, then you want to look at something like Hulk Ultimate Destruction, or you want to look like a Prototype, and to some degree Prototype 2. They do a really good job of that. This game does not do a good job of its melee, and yet, since it is a superpower game, you kind of expect to be able to use melee to fix your problems, right? Looks like I have pissed them off a little bit too much, so I may have to get out of here for the time being, because I can't be asked to just keep farming health all the time. It's relatively easy just to kind of get out of the way for a while at any rate, which is always good. I think if I collect this control thing, it's going to take away my notoriety anyway, so let's chase the golden Sid. I need a broomstick for this. And then we can grab a hold of this guy, and then that should get rid of my notoriety. There we go. Problem solved. Easy, easy. The gunplay is fairly cool because it has a large selection of guns. The Dubstep Gun is actually less fun than you might think, if I'm honest. Like, oh, the Dubstep Gun's so fun. No, stuff like the Black Hole Launcher, the Bounce Gun, the Abduction Ray, those are really fun guns. The basic stuff, well, yes, this is an Alien Pulse Rifle. So the game actually has a significant amount of weapon customization in it, and if I look on the map and I find a weapon store, I can demonstrate that for you. There we go. That's kind of locked. Oh, there's actually one right behind us that's locked down. We can go for that. There we go. So I'm going to go take that over. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. I'm going to have to hack it again. Why they insist on having this hacking minigame for almost every store on the map, I'm really not entirely certain. What it's supposed to do to make the game more enjoyable, I really don't know. Alright. Well, I don't know what I just did, but... Oh, am I taking damage? I must be taking damage. This is really strange. Can I even get out of this? I don't think I can. Okay, hack failed. Yeah, I guess I was just being shot in the process. Yeah, that would make things a little bit more difficult. So, when I eventually find one of these, I will show you what's going on. You can customize the weapons to have different appearances and sound sets. And I think the reason that they did this is because some people really don't like the whole space laser nonsense, and some people really do. Some people will embrace the nerdy nature of this game, and some people, probably the guys that like the originals, will most likely despise it. And then it's like, I want more realistic looking guns, even if the game isn't actually realistic whatsoever. So you have the option of having those realistic guns, or alternatively, you can have the silly guns. I have Star Trek phasers, I have the Alien Pulse Rifle, you can get Han Solo's blaster, you can get the Ion Blaster. He's kicked me out of my bloody truck. Well, I guess that's not a big deal, because I can just kind of run, and they can't catch me, so, you know, I guess that works. At least I can get over the sodding fence. Apparently fences are the bane of my superpowered existence, who knew? So you customize your guns a lot, and that's kind of cool. And I think that the point that I'm trying to lead into here is that little customization system is indicative of the problem this game's going to have with its demographic. It's that its old demographic isn't its new one. It's kind of dude bro demographic. Probably isn't going to be that into this. This game is really nerdy. It's got some very nerdy references going on with it. And as a direct result, I have a feeling that it might turn off a lot of the people that used to like it. Instead of being a gangster game, it's gone full-on nerd references. The Star Trek references, Tron references, the Star Wars references, Aliens, pretty much anything you could possibly figure out. And they throw them in with some really nerdy humor that is most likely going to appeal to people that watch a lot of videos on YouTube. So hey guys! Let me show you what I'm talking about when it comes to the weapon customization. If I go to the shotgun, it's like, oh, it's a shotgun. Or is it? It could, in fact, be an Ion Blaster. There we go. You remember that? You should, certainly, if you like Star Wars. Weapon customization is kind of similar to the Saints Row 3 game, whereby you can customize a bunch of different stuff, and you can also get an add-on which makes the weapon super powerful if you really want to use it. There's a good selection of them as well, including the special weapons, the abduction gun, I've used the black hole one. There's a massive selection of guns, and quite frankly, the fact that... what the hell happened there? I don't really know, but... it was strange. Anyway, the fact that they're... what the what is happening? I'm not even going to ask at this stage. This game does have some very strange things going on with it from time to time. Anyway, the point is that the arsenal of this game is very impressive. Is the gunplay? Not really. It really isn't. Like, punching people into orbit is more fun than shooting people with crappy firearms. The alien weapons are a lot more fun to use for the most part, and you'll probably find yourself using explosives in those. Every now and again, it's good to get out, say, the Tommy gun and just open up with it, and yeah, it's definitely useful, don't get me wrong. It's something that you very well might want to use. But in comparison with the superpowers, it's not necessarily as fun to actually use those weapons. The game has a lot of activities to do. It's got an awful lot of these different kind of sideshows, but it almost feels like the game is a cobbled together set of those sideshows without a real coherent direction to it. What doesn't help in that respect is the fact that the production value of the game is not that great. It is not a noticeable graphical improvement. Have you noticed that everything's permanently at night? This is the closest you'll ever get to not actually having a nighttime setting. Most of the game appears to be at night pretty much all the time, and there's an awful lot of blue and red glows. Like, that's almost the predominant color scheme of the game. Red glows, blue glows, everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Like, every rooftop has a data cluster to collect, and there's alien towers with big red glows, and everything seems to glow blue every time you collect anything, and even your character ends up glowing blue. So the color scheme is a little bit weird, and it seems like a combination of the reused art assets and the fact that the game hasn't really significantly advanced graphically would kind of bring me to the conclusion, look, this, you know, as a full-fledged sequel, they may have kind of dropped the ball here. There's a couple of other little minor problems I've got with it as well in terms of the production value. Like, you'd think this would kind of leave some kind of impact, but it's some lame dust particle effect. Come on, I just jumped from a building. In other games, like, say, Prototype or Crackdown, you have a huge impact on the floor. It doesn't do anything. Like, you can land in the middle of a crowd of people, it won't do anything. Last I checked. Let's try it. See what happens. Maybe you're gonna land on top of someone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. This is not... That doesn't feel superpowered. It also doesn't feel high fidelity. It's little things as well, like the fact that it's the sound assets for a lot of the guns, or just in general, like jumping through windscreens, don't really feel like good. And unfortunately, the soundtrack isn't as good as well. While it does feature some rather classic hits, which come in at great times, like Baby Don't Hurt Me, Stan Bush's The Touch, I Don't Want to Close My Eyes, Don't Want to Miss a Thing from Aerosmith. You know, that kind of thing is great, but the overall selection of music in the game does seem a little bit weaker than Saints Row 3. Now, it seems like I'm complaining a lot here, and you're kind of right. You know, I decided, you know, I'm going to take the game apart and I'm going to call it as I see it and tell you kind of what problems this game has. But I'm going to be entirely honest. All of the great dialogue and writing and the variety of stuff to do in this game, as well as the fun nature of the superpowers and the fact that the game just does not give a damn. Yeah, this game forgot about the notion of restraint probably 2 games in the series ago, and now it's just completely lost its mind. And you know what? It's better for it. And it's actually one of the only reasons why the game even gets away with just how ludicrous a lot of this stuff is. And in fact, just how disjointed a lot of it feels. That's why it gets away with it, because it's just nuts. It helps that the writing is genuinely funny. It almost feels like, in this game, they've actually taken a step away from the crude side of things and towards the nerd-out humor, and I appreciate it. There's some kind of absurd humor, and then there's some really good references, and then there's just some genuinely funny writing that's really well voice-acted. Almost all of the characters are actually a joy to hear, including your main character, who can now be voice-acted by Nolan North, if you so desire, because, you know, why not? Why not? Let's just have a Nolan North voice set. And you can still have your British voice set, you can still be that guy, which is absolutely fantastic. Really happy to see that. And all of that stuff is really, really good. Like, it's obvious a lot of budget went into that. It's almost like they said, right, you know what, here's the budget, this is what we want to spend it on. Let's reuse as many assets as we can, add in only what we need to, reuse what we can there, and, you know, kind of throw these weird systems together that really have no business interacting with each other. But it's okay, because we've got Keith David and Nolan North, and we've got characters from the previous games. We've got Shondi, and we've got our great British president, and all that other crazy nonsense. And you know what? It's enough to actually carry it. Like, as weird as it sounds, after like 30 minutes of me picking the game apart, it is actually enough to carry it. Why? Because it doesn't care. It's barely what it needs to survive as a game and actually still be a really fun, enjoyable experience, warts and all, and you really got to ignore those warts. You really do, because the game is absolutely full of them. I mean, there's flagrant bugs everywhere. Co-op bugs out, by the way. I did try it, and there's like characters saying the wrong lines, characters just getting stuck in cutscenes, all sorts of nonsense like that, things just not working the way that they're really supposed to. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. And there shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. Should have been plenty of time to make sure that that stuff was QA'd out. But it's there. It is there. Whether you like it or not, I'm afraid. Why revive my homie? I don't see any reason to do that. I'll just fight on my own, I guess. Punch him in the face, because why not? I seem to have pissed off a lot of people. Let's go find that golden seed and actually reset everything. The game's sense of fun, I think, is so pervasive that I can get over a lot of what I've just mentioned. Yes, there are a lot of similarities to Saints Row 3. Yes, a lot of the activities are just kind of reskinned. Yeah, they're reskinned versions. This whole virus hacking thing is something that was very similar from Saints Row 3, and it's just, hey, here's a weird Matrix-like take on it. Here's a weird in-game justification for all the strange things that you're doing. Oh, it's paper thin, but it kind of works. But the game just wants you to have a good time. Like, everything I do in this game makes me feel... It really wants me to laugh, it wants me to smile, and it wants me to have a good time. They're desperate for you to get into that. They're desperate for you to have that open-world, chaotic, nonsense fun. And it achieves the ability to do that. Of course, the superpowers help greatly in that respect. There's just so many little things and so much variety, and like the text adventure stuff that you saw in the trailer, yeah, that's there. Collectibles everywhere, all sorts of different activities to do. Some of them are kind of annoying, especially the climbing of the alien towers thing. That's really not all that fun. Thankfully, there's not a lot of it in the game, but some of it is required. But it is a blast. Like, after all of that, after all of the problems I've got with it, it is a blast. It's a Frankenstein's monster of a game, yeah? It's pieced together from different parts that were robbed from various graves. Crackdown, Saints Row 3, Prototype, Hulk Ultimate Destruction, maybe a little bit of DC Universe in there for good measure, Infamous, and of course, you know, GTA back in the day. And it's got an identity crisis. Poor Frankenstein's monster woke up and didn't really know what it wanted to be. But it had this overriding sense that it wanted to make everyone else have a good time. It's coming apart at the seams. It's a glorious, boisterous mess. And that might just be enough to keep it alive. It might just be enough to let Volition and Deep Silver get away with it. If this game wasn't such riotous fun almost all the time, then those things would bring it down. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of games that are trying to make us take them seriously, and a lot of games that are trying to send a message, or tell a difficult story, or convince us that a character is somehow less one-dimensional than he initially appears. And among that lineup of games stands Saints Row that doesn't give a fuck. And it's better for it. It really, really is. Saints Row 4, ladies and gentlemen. Currently, it's $50, your regional equivalent. It's going to be available on August the 20th on PC, 360, and PlayStation 3. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.